Hey there, welcome back. DJ and I recently sat down with Dr. Robert Cialdini, the best-selling author of the book Influence, for an incredible webinar on using persuasion in e-commerce. This is the final episode of our special 3-part series. Today, we're diving into powerful online social proof and how to leverage credibility and trust to drive more sales. Let's jump in.
How do you do that? What's the psychology of social proof? And how did you come up with this term, Bob? Because you coined the term social proof in the 1980s, if I'm not mistaken. So where did this whole concept come from?
So let me take those questions in order. First of all, what social proof offers us is another way to reduce uncertainty. Remember, we said uncertainty is growing. It's mushrooming because of technology. We have so much choice, so many candidates and options to choose among, and the information that we have is an avalanche of proportion. So we need things to reduce that uncertainty before we choose. And one place we talked about was authorities, the experts. Well, there's another principal place we go to reduce our uncertainty, and that is our peers, the people around us, those people who we can see are choosing or have chosen in a particular direction. Now, the way I came upon the title social proof was to recognize that the old way of thinking about persuasion was to change the proof inside your message, the logic of it, the merit of what it is that you were offering. But it was leaving out that idea, was leaving out this whole other reason that people choose. And it's social proof. It's not evidentiary. It's not logic. It's the social environment in which that choice is being made. And we get to reduce our uncertainty when we see our peers doing something. We get to reduce that uncertainty in 2 optimizing ways. First of all, when there are many of our peers, many others, many of our contemporaries moving in a particular direction. And secondly, comparability, how similar those people are to us. If we see a lot of people just like us making a choice, we have evidence of that a lot of other people just like us are making a choice or have been making that choice. Our uncertainty drops as a consequence. Oh, that's probably likely to be a good choice for me too, as a result. Let me give you a couple of examples. One from a study that was done in McDonald's, where people go and they usually buy hamburgers, fries, and a drink. Well, McDonald's also sells desserts. They have a variety of desserts. They have a pie you can get. They have cookies. They have brownies in certain locations. But their branded dessert is the McFlurry. And a study was done by my colleague, Stephen J. Martin in the UK, that showed that if people come into the McDonald's location, and after they've ordered, the person behind the counter says, "And would you like a dessert?" That was the control group in this study. It's what they always said. If you say, "Would you like a dessert?" Our customer's favorite is the McFlurry. So they show people that a lot of others have chosen the McFlurry. Orders of desserts, and they were almost always McFlurries, rose by 55%. Once again, you take something that's actually there in the situation. It simply wasn't being raised to consciousness. There was true social proof for McFlurries. I know when I go to a restaurant at the end of the meal, should I have dessert or not? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. And if I see on the dessert menu, this is our most popular choice, I get it. I have a reason to choose that I didn't have before. And it's a real reason. It's an honest reason. It's an ethical reason to raise to consciousness. And in this McDonald's case, it increased purchases by people who were uncertain by 55%. Okay, so that's the many. How about the similar. This was a study also done in the UK, helmed by our colleague Steve Martin there. The British government was having a problem with people who were delinquent taxpayers, and they would get a letter saying, you're behind in your payment. And they had a letter that showed all the penalties, so all the consequences that would go with this, fines mostly. That was produced, that had about a 67% success rate. They would get people then to send in their taxes. Steve asked them to use social proof by saying, and the great majority of UK citizens do pay their taxes on time, which is true. And now payment rate went from 67 to 71%. Now, here's where we get to the comparableness. If in another version of the letter, it said, and the great majority of UK citizens in your region pay their taxes on time, just like you. Now 79% send in their taxes. But finally, if they said in your hometown, 83%. This letter in the UK tax office is called the £1 billion letter because changing one sentence has earned them $1 billion in revenue as a consequence. So when you combine majority and comparability, you optimize the power of social proof. Now, if you see on the screen, there's various ways you can present your social proof. There's one that's kind of in small letters because you don't have a lot of research on this one. It's trends. Let's say you've got a new offering, a new model, a new addition to your basic model, and only 30% of your customer base has moved in that direction. If you say 30% of our customer base has tried this, has purchased this new one, that's just a statistic. And it's not a very powerful one because it means 70% have not. But if you say 6 months ago, it was 15%. 3 months ago, it was 20%. Now it's 30%. Now that same 30% at the end of a trend produces significantly more compliance with your offer because people project a trend into the future, that it's going to continue and it will soon be the majority. So if you don't have that kind of customer response yet, but you've got a trend, you've got a growth trend in that direction, I want you to be able to say, not just more and more people are buying it. I want you to be able to say more and more people are buying it because that's a trend. Greater and greater numbers are doing it. And that's the way you optimize social proof when you don't have it yet, but you have it in the future.
Another great example. Thank you very much for that. I love your insights and all of the breadth and depth of your research and knowledge around the nuances of creating social proof.
I'll say one more thing. What happens if you get a bad review? It's on your site. It's a stinker. What do you do with that bad review? And you've got a great, overall you're 4.5 or 4.6, but you got this one and standing out there and it's drawing people's attention. What do you do with that? Well, one thing you have to do is you have to answer it. You should respond. You should say, I'm sorry that you had this experience, and if it's something that you can correct, you can say, we're making sure that this doesn't happen again. But if this person just has something bad to say about you, I just don't like this organization for whatever reasons. Here's what you do. You say, we're sorry that that's the case, but we're so glad, as you can tell from our star ratings, that the vast majority of our customers have not had your experience with us. You see what you do there? You move people to the social proof you really have. Once again, you employ what's already there in the situation, the levers that you have, and you just get people's attention away from this one clunker to the majority of people who have given you favorable. And now you've got social proof on your side again.
We like to call it turning a negative into a net positive. Scott actually wrote a whole article on that concept. And it's so true. And one of the other nuances to that, Bob, is that many times people like to see negative reviews because they want to see how bad is. In other words, how bad could this product or brand or website be? And if they see a review that says, well, I gave them a 2-star review because it arrived 2 days late.
Right.
So what? Right? Or the packaging was damaged.
Yeah.
Oh, so what? So you've got to look at the reviews in the context of what it is they're saying. And again, if you have a perfect 5-star rating, people don't believe that anyway. And they figure you're manipulating something.
Right.
So to have a few negative reviews, to address those negative reviews and explain, you're sorry that happened. But like you said, fortunately, 99.8% of our people have never had a problem or don't have that problem, and show how you resolve that issue and show that you're listening, you're engaged, you're not just ignoring the
That's right.
occasional problem. Okay, this is a case study from Boss, actually, and unfortunately, Boss could not be here today. But this is his website that he created and built up and eventually sold. This is Kuchenplatz, which is a kitchen appliance remodeling website in the Netherlands. And he did a lot of split tests to drive optimization, conversions, and revenue. And this particular split test was one of the most successful, where he simply added the reviews on the homepage above the fold in the hero image. And that one little change alone increased leads by 34.3% and sales by 3.1 million. So just a small adjustment by adding that proof point, that social proof, above the fold on the homepage drove great results. This is what the site looks like today. He since sold the site, and this is what it looks like. And same idea, showing the social proof above the fold. So now we're going to turn it back to Scott, and he's going to talk about the review strategy and social proof and how that works and looks.
All right, this is really exciting. So we've been in the review industry since 2010, but we've also been doing stuff before that for many years. So this is a 10,000-foot view of all the ways that you can collect social proof and display it strategically online. So that is included in our strategy guide, a Reputation King strategy guide that has this strategy in it. But I wanted to just give you a really quick 10,000-foot view of what that looks like. Now, we talked about the best place to put seller ratings on your website is at the top, above the fold, is somewhere in the middle, and then at the bottom. So I'm going to show you what that looks like and why we feel that that's the most optimal position. So we did a survey, and this was based on feedback we were getting and research that we were finding out in the wild. And one of those was actually Boz's case study that you just saw. So we thought, okay, there's something here. Let's do a survey. So we sent this survey out to 500 consumers. And we're like, okay, which website homepage are you most likely to buy from? You can see that we created this little banner at the top, and 73% said, well, I'm more likely to buy from that one. So that was directional, right? So then we asked them, do you think displaying a company's overall star rating at the top of their homepage increases your trust in that company? Well, 87% said yes, more directional evidence. So then we actually created what we call the trust bar, and we tested it. This is a new strategy. So we ran a split test with one of our clients, and all they did was add that bar to the top of their homepage. They didn't add it to any other pages on their site. And we ran a split test, and it increased their conversion by 41% with a 99.5% confidence interval. And that's crazy, right? But that's consistent with what Boz saw on his site. So that's the top strategy to put your seller ratings on your site. Then we recommend adding a review widget halfway down the page. Now, this is the first time that consumers have actually seen written reviews about your company, because in Google, on the Pre-Suasion side, they typically see the aggregated ratings. So now they actually get to dig in and start to see what some of your clients are actually saying about you. And then we also recommend at the bottom of the page to have that seal. It's very small, but it's valuable. So when they get to the bottom of the page, they're reminded, oh yeah, this is a trusted company.
Okay, now we're going to talk about what does social proof look like on the category page. So we talked about the home page, and that's oftentimes the first point of entry to a website, depending on the search results that they did. This is now the category page. And what this is showing is the product reviews for all of the sunglasses in this category. And as you can see, there's various number of reviews for the various products. But this also becomes, in the behavioral design world, what we call a decision aid. A decision aid is anything that helps the consumer, the shopper, make a decision. Because if they're just shown a lot of products, especially if you have more than 3 to 5 products on a page, it becomes overwhelming. It's analysis paralysis. They don't see any one thing standing out. They don't see any one product offering greater value than another. So oftentimes they get confused, and rather than make a wrong decision, they make no decision and they leave. And this is one of the many reasons that 98% of the people that come to your website typically do not buy and do not convert. And that's why websites have a 1.9 to 2.3 average conversion rate of all website visitors, because there's multiple friction points along the journey. One of which is there's no good decision aids to make an easy decision. So here's what that looks like on your product page. Again, let's look at Amazon. Why do they have this same configuration for years and years? Because it works. It's providing the social proof that people want to see, need to see, and have become accustomed to seeing and now expect on Amazon and other marketplaces. So that would be 3 different data points. One would be obviously the product ratings and reviews, the product questions and answers, and the secure transaction seal. It's not just Amazon. It's all the big marketplaces, Home Depot, Lowe's, Best Buy, Target, etc. So we went back to our surveys and our research, and we wanted to ask the market, which of these 2 product pages would you prefer buying from, A or B? And these were randomized, so there was no order bias in the survey results. And 91% said they would rather buy from B, which includes the reviews, the Q&A, and the secure transaction seal. And most likely is because of the familiarity. Familiarity is another cognitive bias in behavioral design that says people would rather do things that they're familiar with. This is why chains and franchises and big brands work, because they're familiar. The concept, the cognitive bias of familiarity does in fact create ethical persuasion. So anytime you can create a familiar buying environment, a familiar user experience, a familiar design and layout, you're going to increase conversion rates. So that's something that we tested and improved. This is what it looks like in the wild on an actual website: ratings, reviews, Q&A, and the secure transaction seal. You can hover over that or click on that. It's going to pop up the secure transaction verification from a third party. So there's your third party authority. So we're going to move on to the kind of final stretch here, putting it all together. And Scott's going to run us through some of the stats and results that have been accomplished by creating that page 1 search domination.
Yeah. So, I mean, putting all of this together, you start to see some incredible things happen. And that's why pre-suasion is so valuable on the front end, but then also leveraging these assets on your website. You actually get this compounding effect that happens when you start to combine some of these strategies together. So you can see on this site, just within a matter of a few months, by applying some of these strategies, 378% increase in organic growth, 431% increase in page 1 keywords, right? Getting at the top of those search results. This is another one of our clients. They've managed, just using the Q&A strategy, to generate hundreds of thousands of visitors a year to their site, just by answering questions that the people ask and anticipating future questions. And then this is another one, very recent, actually. This is just from June of this last year. They had hardly any traffic to their site, and they started to implement some of these strategies. And within just a few months, I mean, the numbers are crazy, right? 8,000% increase in traffic, 12,000 increase in page 1 keywords. And obviously this depends on your industry and different things, right? But when you start to combine these ideas of pre-suasion and persuasion once they get to your site, and incredible things can happen. This particular client, not only did he see that increase, but because he used some of these principles on his site, right? Adding social proof and authority, I mean, from 0.89 to 2.42%. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's compounding. It's a compounding effect.
More traffic and more conversions at the same time. So adding more people at the top of the funnel and then adding more sales at the bottom of the funnel is compound growth. And when you can create that persuasion in search and the search result domination, as we talked about, you're going to get more traffic. And then when you continue through the website with social proof, authority, and identifying and removing or mitigating friction points along the way, then you're going to increase conversions and revenue as well.